What's up, guys? Justin Fuller here, and I'm outside of a 2021 Honda CR-V EXL model today. So today we're going to look at how it competes against some of the other cars in the market, and then how does it differ from the 2020 model. So let's hop on in and check it on out. All right, guys, so let's talk about what's underneath the hood of this vehicle. So as I pull you on here, I'll point out that this is a 1.5 liter turboed engine running 190 horsepower out to a CVT transmission. From there, you are transferring all that power out to these 18-inch alloy wheels on the exterior of the vehicle. Now, underneath the hood, you've got a lot of different things going on, and you can see you've got a lot of space to work with if you want to add auxiliary lights, run lines for amps, or anything of that nature. Now, I've got my brake distribution right here along with my windshield wiper fluids. As we move along across, you can see that my air is running right here through the vehicle. I do have access to a fuse box, which is easy to access right there. And then access to my battery terminals is gonna be very easy to get to as well. So I've got a lot of space moving around in the underbelly of this vehicle. Now let's talk about comparisons. So this car gets 190 horsepower underneath the hood of the car. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw up on the screen some of the other vehicles out there that it regularly competes against, so you can understand how this car stacks up against those vehicles. Now, after we look at that, we need to talk about gas mileage. So this particular vehicle gets 28 in the city and 34 on the highway. So what I also wanna do is throw you up a comparison there so you can see where it lives and stacks up in the world as far as miles per gallon. All right, so as we discussed earlier, you've got an 18-inch alloy wheel working on this vehicle. So as we wrap around the front end, I want to point out that you do have LED daytime running lights, along with LED fog lights down here underneath. And then you have your standard halogen beams as you run through the lighting system. Now, up here, I want to point out a couple different things. One, you've got that black honeycomb finish on the bottom with a nice chrome accent on the top. And then right here, you'll see the radar that's going to be used for your Honda sensing features, which I'll go over here in just a second. Now, related to radar, I also want to point out that you can see a trapezoid cut out right up there, and that's going to be for the camera system that's used for Honda sensing. Now, related to those, let's talk about that for a second. So the first would be collision mitigation braking, meaning if the car is looking like it's going to rear in another car, it'll be an audible alert, it'll flash in the dash, and then actually apply the brakes for the vehicle. So how it's detecting that car in front of you is using that radar right there. Now, additionally, you have road departure mitigation, meaning if I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, I can get an audible alert and then it'll actually vibrate the wheel to let me know, hey, wake up, pay attention, you're leaving the side of the road. Now, additionally, you have a lane keep assist system, which means it'll keep you centered in your line. So if you start to drift to the left or the right, it can keep you centered, and it uses that camera that we were just talking about that lives right up here on the car. So that's just some of the Honda sensing features that you have available to you in this vehicle. Now, as we wrap around the side, I want to point out a couple things. You do have powered mirrors, and these do have the LED turn indicators in them. So that's where you'll find this in this model. Up top, we do, of course, have a moonroof on this vehicle where you can open it. It is a smart key entry, so I can put my hand on here and automatically unlock it and lock the vehicle. So let's wrap around to the back half of this vehicle and talk about that. All right, so here we are at the back end of this vehicle. And the first thing I'll point out is you have nice big brake light system back here to let everybody know you're backing up, and your reverse lights are gonna be large too, along with a windshield wiper system. So easy enough to keep it clean and visible back there. Now, you do have, of course, your backup camera, which is located right here on the vehicle. And let's go ahead and pop this open. Now, I will point out that this is a powered tailgate, which you find on this trim level. So nice to know that you have that. And it is, of course, adjustable. To adjust it, all you gotta do is get this set to wherever you want. And then once you do, press and hold. Once you hear a double beep, now it's set to that height. So just so you know how to adjust that as you move forward. Now, in the back of the car, you've got a lot of different things going on here. So the first thing I'll point out is it does come with carpet floor mats, as you can see here. Let me get those out of the way for us. Then I want to talk about the storage system in here. It's kind of cool. So right now you can see that it kind of has a lip system wrapped around, but you can change that. They've given you the option here. So it's a really cool system that they have. So if I lift it up, which I don't know if I can lift this with one hand right now, I can set this up and make it flush in there, which is really nice to know. That way, if you were ever planning on camping and maybe sleeping in it, or if you just had something large that you needed to keep flat, you could absolutely do it. Or if you had groceries and you're worried about stuff sliding around, you could drop that lip down in there if you needed to. You, of course, do have the privacy right here, so I can kind of keep my belongings hidden underneath this. And of course, this car does have that privacy glass up here additionally too. So a lot of different things to keep all your belongings safe. Now, on the back part of the car, I will point out that, of course, this is removable. You just squeeze it and pull it, and it, of course, pops out. So let me slide that out of the way here for just a second, and we'll keep talking about different things. I've got handles back here, so to throw down my back seats, I can throw down one handle, I can pull down a second handle, and I can lay this down. So now is a perfect example where you can see where that lip comes into play, where I might want to get this set up to where it's more flush depending on what I'm doing. So let me get that set up here for us, and I'll show you a little bit more here. So now I got a little bit more flush so you can kind of appreciate what it is here. So as we come through here, you can see I've got a nice, pretty actually flat surface working here, and my air vents are right there. So if I was camping in it, I could turn on my air vents and either have cold air blowing right next to my head or hot air if I'm cold. So kind of a cool setup when it comes to that. So before you ask, can it be done? Yes, it can be done. You could camp in here. So as a 6-footer, you can see I'm gonna have to go diagonal, and I might have to bend my legs a little bit if I wanna close this, but they do also offer a tent that you can get, whether it be aftermarket or through Honda. So absolutely as a 6-footer, I could fit in this a little bit diagonal, but if there was 2 of us back here, we might have to work it around, or we might just have to cuddle. So as we pull in here, I'll just point out that if you lift this system up that we talked about earlier, you have a full diameter spare living right under here with your jack and all of your accessories, and you have this tiny little funnel back here that I'm gonna show you what it's to. So when it comes to this car and this tiny funnel, let's talk about getting into the gas cap, right? So the one thing I don't like about this car is that unlike the Accord and some of the cars that are connected to door locks, you can just pop it open. In this particular vehicle, you're gonna have to come down here to where the quick access buttons are and pop that. Now you do have a hood release here that you can get to additionally, but it's kind of a bummer that they didn't connect it to the door locks like the Accord and some of the other vehicles out there. But let's talk about this here. So if I ran out of gas, you can see that this is capless and there's a valve on it, right? So that's where this comes into play. I would need something to hold this valve open so that I could pour gas down into it if I had a gas can, water bottle, milk jug, I don't know, Ziploc bag, you fill in the blank here, but that's the function of this. So as it turns out, this is not for playing the tiniest trumpet, and no, it's not for the tiniest beer bong ever. With both of those said, shout out to Ms. Chris in 6th grade for teaching me to play the trumpet, and shout out to Texas State University for teaching me how to use a beer bong. Yep. All right, guys, so here I am in the 2nd row of this vehicle, and as you can see, I've actually got a good amount of space to work with here, and I've got this pushed almost all the way back because I set in it to drive the car over here. So if a 6-footer is sitting behind a 6-footer, we should be good to go. If you're 6'1" or 6'2", you should still be good to go. I regularly get asked a couple inches taller than I am. Go figure. So as we come into the car here, first I'll point out that this is a leather interior in this vehicle. So it's got a nice print, and I love the stitching that they've done. It's kind of a sporty look. I do dig it. And then as you look across here, I've got leather here, and then of course across the top I've got black here, and then I've got this nice wood faux finish that runs here with a small tweeter and then a larger speaker down here below. Now, while we're talking about this, I want to talk to you quickly about legroom space. So what I'm going to do is throw a comparison up so that you can see this car's legroom compared to other vehicles out there in the market that would regularly compete against. So let's take a look at that real quick. Now that we've looked at that, let's talk about what else is in this car. So I do want to point out that you, of course, do have air vents back here. So if you got little ones, you got dogs, that's always important to you. And then down below that, I do have 2 USBs here. They're both 2.5 amps, so they'll charge a little bit faster as far as that to help you out. Know that you have 2 here, and then moving up to the front of the car, you're going to have 2 more right up there in the center console. All right, guys, so before we hop in the front seat and go over the dash layout, I want to talk to you about, of course, airbags and a couple things related to the seats. So you've got 6 airbags in this car. So I've got 2 front airbags, 2 side airbags, and then 2 full curtain airbags with rollover sensors. So even if the car doesn't actually get hit and I start to roll it off the side of the road, it will deploy those to protect you. And then these side airbags are actually set up with an occupant detection system, so they won't give you whiplash and push you into something else if you're getting into an accident. So you've got a lot working. On top of that, you have ACE body structure on this car, which if you aren't familiar with that, ACE body structure is designed to have crinkle zones in different portions of the vehicle to let the engine drop down and out so it doesn't get pushed up in the cabin, and of course kind of push debris around the sides and over and away from the vehicle to protect everyone who's inside of the car. Now, when we're talking about seating of this vehicle, you do have a 10-way powered seat up here, so I can control, of course, all my, my legs and everything underneath my legs, and then raising and lowering the seat, my back support, and then my lower lumbar support is going to be right here. Now, on the other side, you have a 4-way powered, meaning that I can adjust the back, forward, and then the backrest, right? So you're not going to be able to lift this one up or down in this vehicle. All right, guys, so let's talk about the dash layout on this vehicle. So I'm going to start you over here on the far left side of the vehicle, and we'll go over some different features. The first one being the collision mitigation braking system. So this is always an on running. I mentioned earlier, in the event that it's looking like I'm going to rear end somebody, it'll give me an audible alert, a flash in the dash, and it'll actually start to apply the brakes to help prevent the accident. So that's collision mitigation braking. You can always press and hold if you want to turn that feature off. Now above that is road departure mitigation, so you can see if the LED is on, it's letting me know on or off. And what that is if I start to drive off the side of the road, or the shoulder I should say, it'll give me an audible alert and actually vibrate the wheel to say, hey, wake up, pay attention. Now, I do have my trunk release here, so it will actually open the vehicle for me. So you do have a powered trunk in this vehicle. And then below that is vehicle stability assist. So it works with my traction control. In the event that I go into a skid, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction on the car. Now, I want to point out, of course, that I do actually have quite a bit of space down here. So you can see I've got a lot of leg room down here that I'm working with. So if I can find a comparison, I'll actually throw up a comparison on the screen of how this competes with some of the other vehicles out there in the market as far as the front row leg room comparison to set that up for you. Let's talk about the steering wheel here. So on the steering wheel, on the left side is where you're gonna find your Bluetooth options and gonna be some of your audio options. So let's talk about that for a second here. So audio-wise, I can control right here my Bluetooth to answer a call, hang up a call, or go back, and then voice command, which also works with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and then to toggle through my menu screen. Now, menus is gonna use this I button right here. If I press that, you're gonna see this menu pop on up here, right? So the first thing you could see is it's gonna give me a gas option if I wanna view like range, so how many miles on this tank and then previous trips. If I jump over, I can get an alertness monitor. So if I'm using some of these features, I'm not necessarily touching the gas or brake because I have the Honda sensing as far as my adaptive cruise control on, the lane keep assist, all these things. It's gonna eventually alert me just to say, hey, just making sure you're still there, right? As far as getting to your oil life, you can absolutely do that right there. Moving over to my audio options. So I love that you do that. And if you press up and down, so as you can see, I'm pressing up and down right here, it'll give you any options available. So right now I just have FM and AM and then Sirius, which you get for 90 days. I'd also have Bluetooth or Android Auto or anything else if I had those connected up or actively running in the vehicle, right? So just be aware of that. You do have other options other than just these three. Now moving past that, as far as accessing my phone once I've connected via Bluetooth, and then switching from miles per hour to kilometers, and then I'll jump back to that beginning of that screen. Now over here on the right side of the steering wheels, we have two more of those Honda sensing features we talked about earlier. So the first thing you need to do is make sure this main button is on. And if it is on, you'll see ACC and LKS flashing at you right there in green. So that stands for Adaptive Cruise Control and Lane Keep Assist. So Lane Keep Assist is right here. If I touch this, you'll see some dotted lines appear right up there. So what it's doing is it's actually using this camera that is right up here to detect the lines out there on the road as we drive. So if I drift to the left or right, it'll keep me centered in them. Now, a reminder that you do have to be going over 45 miles an hour to use this feature. So just be aware of that if you're using it. Now the next one is adaptive cruise control. So adaptive cruise control is just classic cruise control. I get up to speed, I press it, and I set my speed, and then I can set the distance it keeps between me and the car in front of me. And the more boxes, the more space it's gonna hold, right? So if I'm going 65, the guy in front of me slows down to 55. What it's then gonna do is it's gonna give me that extra space and space it out, and it's gonna drop my speed. And then when I get around him, it'll take me back into the speed that I want. So that's adaptive cruise control and how that function works. Now, right here, I've got a push button start, and it is a remote start in this vehicle. So when we're talking about that, I'll just point out that to use remote start, press the lock button and then press this remote start button right here, and I'll fire the car up. And to turn it off, I can press the unlock and do that. So the car always has to be locked to use this feature, so you don't have to worry about the car being unlocked and somebody get in and driving off. So just so you know. And then right here, I can pop the trunk, I can set up the alarm, and then on the back, under this sticker, you see driver 1 or driver 2, which will connect up to some of the door lock settings and things like that. And there is a little switch right here that you can turn. So if I pull this right here, there is actually a key that lives in here. So this is kind of cool. I do have a valet key that I can get into the doors, and you can actually control the windows here if you walk out, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So we were just talking about this key, and I mentioned that you can control the windows on the car. So what's really cool about this car is that you can do a couple different things here. So if I press the unlock button once, twice, and then hold, what I can do is actually roll all the windows down on the car, including the moonroof, right? So as long as I hold, it continues to roll them down, along with the moonroof, as you can see, is still going. So if I walk up here with this key, what I would do is I would put it inside here, turn it to lock it, turn it again, and then press and hold, and then it'll begin to roll all my windows and my moonroof back up. All right, guys, so let's talk about the touchscreen inside of this car and kind of how it basically works. So the first thing I want to prompt you is just walk you through some of the audio options that you have available to you. So if I touch the source button here, it'll pull up all my available audio options. So FM, AM, 90 days of Sirius XM for free, and then you could start a membership with them if you wanted. You do have 2 USBs up front, so you could load up a USB with a bunch of music on it. Remember, it needs to be in one single folder, not in subfolders. And no, you can't use your phone to do this, so it has to be a USB. Now, iPods, anything with an IO basically can connect up to this vehicle, so you should be good to go from there. As far as just being able to listen via Bluetooth for audio, so you can see your Bluetooth right there. And then you have Pandora compatibility right here. If you're a Spotify user, no big deal. You can either use the Bluetooth there, or you can use Android Auto here or Apple CarPlay here in just a second, and I'll show you, which is the Android Auto button right there. So let's jump on into that. All that you need to do is connect your phone up to the USB. Once you've done that, it'll prompt you through and it'll connect you up. What I like about this is when it connects up, it'll also connect your phone up via Bluetooth. So it'll kind of do 2 things at once for you, so you don't have to do them both. Now from here, you can see that it immediately pulls across any music that I'm listening to, but to show you the full application of what Android Auto or Apple CarPlay looks like, I'll pull it up on the screen here. So you can see I use Google Maps, so it pulls up that immediately for me, but I have the option to jump in here and kind of see other available apps to me. So Spotify, Pandora, there are several apps that you can use. So I'll throw out 15 of the most commonly used apps, whether it be for music, podcasts, sports, just kind of anything, so that you can see those and kind of understand what's available to you out there. Just because I don't use a ton of them, I use some of the basics. Now, with that said, I use Spotify, Google Maps. You have access to Apple Maps, Waze, and of course, TomTom has a GPS setup, so a lot of different options there. And then all these other features that you have available to you, and you can rearrange these into a particular order if you prefer to, so know that you can do that. Now, with that said, that's Android Auto, right? Apple CarPlay is going to look very similar, but it's going to very much mimic and look like what an Apple product typically looks like, so it's easy to understand. Now, as far as info goes here, very easy to understand. You can option in here and get to tripometer info, or you can get to a clock and wallpaper, which is kind of cool. So if you wanted to jump in there and just kind of customize and put something up that you're going to see when you went to, you absolutely could. So I could change this background image. I would also need a USB drive to do that. Plug it in. Once I've done that, they do give you a couple pre-selected ones, but if you wanted to add your own custom one, you would kind of prompt through these steps that I'm doing right here. Once you get here, go over to wallpapers, and then you could add new with anything you have connected up, right? So that would give you the availability. And as you can see, it has to be a USB, cannot be your phone to do this. So just be aware of that. And they give me some pre-options that I can play with here. So let's jump back out of that. Now, if you want to see some tips and tricks and different things that you can do with the CR-V touchscreen, I've actually made a video, so I will put that right up here on the screen so you can jump over to that and see some really cool different things that you can do to customize the background and the layout and the display and the whole system that you're looking at. So there's a lot of cool things you can do, so hopefully you'll check that out. Now, as far as Bluetooth goes, of course, I'll be able to access my contacts, so I could place calls, anything of that nature. I can do it off the steering wheel, or I could go through here. I could add in, 20 of my favorites if I just want to be really quick able to access them. I typically use Android Auto, where I can use the voice command to just call and use the voice command and say, hey, call so-and-so, this sort of thing. But you can set it up through Honda if you want to. It's not that hard to do. Now, under settings, there's probably 2 or 3 features that I want to show you, and that's it. Now, most of them are going to land under vehicle right here, and it's going to be related to door locks. So if I scroll down here, door and window setup is what we're going to touch on. Now, auto door lock. The car hits 10 miles an hour, it's set up to automatically lock the doors of the car. So you can change this when you shift to park, it'll lock them. So if you got little ones in the car and you're worried about that, you can make sure all the doors are locked, or you can turn it completely off if you just want to lock and unlock the doors as you go. And then auto door unlock. So when I open my driver's side door, it'll then unlock the remaining doors of the car. Now, I don't particularly care for this feature at that setting, just because sometimes the driver takes a long time to get their stuff together, get everything, and then they open the door. So in the meantime, everybody else is fiddling with their doors, trying to find the locks, unlock it. So I kind of like to switch it to one of these other options. Maybe when I shift to park, that way it'll unlock all the doors. Or maybe I don't want to mess with it all if I'm the only person who's ever in the car and I just want them to stay locked. Now, at the very bottom of the screen, you're going to see the walk away auto lock feature. Now, this is really cool. I like this feature because if I turn this on, if I get out of my car and I have my key with me, when I get 10 feet from the car, it'll automatically lock the doors of the car. Now, what's cool about this is if you get halfway into the grocery store, or halfway to wherever you're going, or into your work building, you're on the way up the elevator and you go, oh my God, I left my laptop in the car and I don't know if it's locked and I'm worried someone's gonna take it. Well, if you had this feature on, it would have locked automatically when you got 10 feet from the car. So it's a great feature for those of us who forget to do that, or we leave items in the car that we're really worried about. So I would highly recommend you turn that feature on. So that's kind of the quick rundown of the settings. There are other things you can play with. Now, Honda Link is set up to where a couple things. Once you connect up via Bluetooth or Android Auto, it's actually going to prompt you and say, in the event that you get into a crash, would you like us to be able to call 911 for you? Meaning if the airbag's deploy and you don't respond when they call to you, they'll call 911 and send somebody out and say, hey, here's the year, make, model, VIN, color, and this is the last place we could see them GPS-wise. So a great feature, it's 100% free. Now, additionally, if you're climbing into some of the higher up models, you have access to things like being able to start the car from your phone, or being able to control the door locks from your phone, right? But that's typically going to land in your touring models. So let's talk about the shifter and what's around it, right? So the first thing I want to point out is that you, of course, have your parking brake, which is electronic. So I just lift up on it with my foot on the brake and it'll set it, and then press down to release it. So just like a handbrake, right? Easy to understand. Brake hold is right next to that. So if I have brake hold on, you got to have your seatbelt on. So remember to put it on if you're going to use this feature. But what it is if I have the car in drive, it'll show you brake hold up in the dash. But what it allows me to do is release my foot. As you can see, it's not touching the brake while we're in drive right now. And it's holding me, so the car isn't moving. And then when I press the gas, it'll release it and we can start to move forward, and then we could come to a complete stop. It'll hold again, and then I could relax my foot. So this is good for like stop and go traffic, or if I'm in like a drive-through line. Now remember, if you take your seatbelt off, it's gonna disengage this feature, right? But what it will do is it will immediately throw on the parking brake, and kind of say parking brake engaged up in the dash, just so you don't roll into the car in front of you. So know that you have a safety setting for that if you're using this feature. Now, while we're here, You, of course, have reverse, neutral, drive. There's like a sport mode, which will rev at a higher RPM, get a little more get up and go. And then your lower gears, right? So if I'm trying to crawl down something slowly without burning up my brakes or something of that nature, or creep out of the mud, I may want to use the lower gears. Now, on the other side of this, I have my idle start-stop, which I'm not a huge fan that you have to use this feature in a certain way. Meaning that if I have this feature on, which is always on unless I press it to turn it off, what happens is if I come to a stop and I'm idling, it can turn off the engine, leave on the electronics and the AC to help preserve and increase miles per gallon. So it's a gas savings feature. However, if I want to turn it off, every time I get in the car and crank it up, I'm gonna have to press this to turn it off. So that part's kind of a bummer. I wish you could just disengage it completely or engage it, but it's not given to you as an option. Now below that is your econ button. If I press this, you'll see a green leaf pop up on in the dash. But what it does is it's gonna give you better gas mileage in the car, but you're gonna lose out on a couple things. So you're not gonna have as much power off the accelerator down here, and your AC unit isn't gonna have quite as much power blown on you. So it's gonna affect some of the systems that are running through the car to help improve gas mileage, but it's a give and take system. You're giving up some things to get better gas mileage. So it's good if you're taking like a long trip, the car's already cooled off, you're driving, and you're just on the highway going one particular speed, maybe you leave this on and run with it. Or if you're a conservative driver, leave it on all the time, you'll never know the difference and you'll be good to go. The CR-V is a fantastic car. I am a strong fan of it. When I sold these, I sold a lot of them because I really do think it offers a lot for a lot of different people. Now, but you gotta compare it to what else is out there on the market like RAV4s and these other cars. So I wanna do that real quick. So I'm gonna throw you up first the horsepower comparison so you compare it to the other cars up there. So I'll throw that up on the screen so you can see that comparison. So we'll look at that for a second. Now after that, let's talk about miles per gallon. So this car gets 28 and 34 on the highway. So that's what you're looking at for this specific vehicle. Let's look at a comparison up here to see what those other cars are and how they compete. Now we talked about legroom in the very back. Actually, we didn't talk about that. Let's talk about cargo space. So I'm gonna throw cargo space up there so you can see a comparison there. And that way you can see what those other vehicles are. Then we'll go to the second row so you can look at those comparisons there. So let's look at a comparison real quick of some other cars and as far as what they offer out there, and then we'll jump up to the front row and just talk about general spacing that you have as far as your legs up front and some comparisons that you can find there. So that's a lot of different comparisons that you can look at right there. So hopefully you'll pause on them if you need to and you can check those out. Other than that, I'll say this car offers quite a bit of safety features. It's really spacious. I like that it sits up off the ground. It's got enough get up and go. You're got 190 horsepower under the hood, a 1.5 liter turbo engine, so you shouldn't be any issues there as far as getting up to speed and getting around cars as you move down the road. As far as who this car fits, a lot of older people like it if you got bad knees or anything like that, because you can slide laterally in and out of this car. You're not climbing up or down into a car, right? So that's always nice to have. And you got the cargo space there in the back. So if you're an active person, you need to throw gym bags, camping materials, whatever it is, this car just offers a lot for a lot of people. And I think that's why it really appeals, and this car sells really well because of that. So I would highly recommend that you check this car out if you're looking at the compact SUV kind of market. Other than that, do me 4 favors. The first, I hope that you'll hit the like button for me, let you know you like the video. It makes me feel good inside, all warm and fuzzy when you do. And then 2, I hope that you'll share the video. Put it out there. If you got some friends in a CR-V group, hopefully you'll share this with them. Maybe they'll learn something, or maybe they'll remind me and leave a comment, which is my third thing. Leave a comment and let me know, did I miss something? Is there something you wish I would go over? I always want to do that, and if I'm missing something, let me know. If you need me to make a video to kind of help you out with something, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to help you out. And fourth, hit the notification bell button. If you want to know every time I post a video and learn more about Hondas, hit the bell. Let me tell you about it. Let me share my love of Hondas and cars with you in a really weird way, because I do talk fast and I kind of do kooky stuff. Other than that, I want to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you later.